The scripture of the Founding Master, chapter 2, verse 23. The Founding Master said, "My method of edification, to give you a simile, could either start from the branches and leaves of a tree to reach the roots, or start from the roots to reach the branches and leaves. This is because I make the Dharma available according to a person's capacities." I love these words. Every time I read them, I feel tears in my eyes. Why is this? I'm glad to share with you how I unpack these words. 4 things. First, I love that Master Sotasan used simile. Here, meaning is more felt and understood first in the body and senses. It reminds me of the beautiful parables Jesus used with his disciples, which I grew up memorizing in Sunday school. And then later, when I studied the Zen koans, I practiced for many years in Renzai Zen training. And I remember the first time I visited the one Buddhist temple and went into the bathroom where there would be a verse on the mirror or taped to the wall with the question underneath, "What does this mean?" There's so much space in this question. I've always felt this spaciousness when I'm reading the scriptures or visiting the temple. I feel there's room for me here. Second, edification, his instruction, a building process, or as I like to think of it, cultivation. This Dharma isn't just nice ideas, but very real and specific ways to build the life we wish to live, with practical skills and resources and tools for living. And I relate to this very personally from work that began when I needed and wanted to teach mindfulness. I studied with neuroscientist Richie Davidson, who began the Center for Healthy Minds after his encounter with His Holiness, the Dalai Lama. Instead of continuing to study the negative effects of emotion on the brain, he turned completely to researching the constituents of well-being, the positive effects of emotion, and discovered how well-being is a skill no different than learning to play a new musical instrument or a new sport. As a professor of education then, this brought new hope to me and to my students, and gave me a way to share the Dharma broadly. I'd been a closet meditator for years, but as I began to find the Dharma in the neuroscience, I was freed to explore in myself. I felt new agency to teach these simple but not so easy practices. And my students, who were all teachers across all levels and subjects, were so stressed. So I began to open class with mindfulness and silence. Or when someone would bring an impossible situation or problem with their work, I'd ask, could we just sit for a few moments in silence? And I'd wait. Inevitably, a shift would occur and some insight might arise. Or sometimes there'd be enough settling that I might offer something that might assist. So there are ways to build the life we wish to live. Third, in the sentence, I make the Dharma available according to a person's capacities. Wow, there is room for everyone here. And this strikes me as being so very current and needed right now. How vital it is that we each find ways to translate the Dharma in our own ways and gifts. As a special educator, this was music to my ears. This, after all, is universal design for learning that I'd spent decades learning and teaching, providing multiple means of engagement, multiple means of representation, and multiple means of action, and expression. And here's the important part and why I wanted to mention this to you. How unpacking and applying the meaning in Sotasan's teachings, so pure and from a different culture, mindset, and context in Korea 100 years ago, can be such a worthwhile practice for us now, is actually so needed. Here we are in 2023, waking up to the Dharma in our lives, really coming home to ourselves. And in large part, thanks to those who felt the call to come to America and share it. And I want to ask a question. What is our responsibility as we take this in, receive it, learn it, and practice it? How can I share this more fully in all aspects of my life in this hurting world where so many are marginalized, dismissed, or canceled? I'm resisting the word we, though I see I keep using it. How can I make room in myself for the Dharma in all my moments? Release my unique gifts and creativity. Fourth, the beauty of the simile itself. This practice could either start from the branches and leaves of a tree to reach the roots, or start from the roots to reach the branches and leaves. Each one of us experiences the Dharma from where we first touched it. This may have been out somewhere on the branches or one of the leaves, or begin at the root to reach the branches. As I experience this meaning, the leaves or the branches could be any experience in our life. Nature, music, literature, or study, or a practice of any kind. Or a teacher who said something that was an arrow to the heart. Waking up in this present moment is what it's about. Wherever we are, doing anything, opening a can in the kitchen, or walking a path, or looking into a flower, as I did today, or studying anything in depth, can slow us down to be quiet and still enough to see and be present with whatever our focus is. It might make us want to do a 180 turn in our life, in our direction, or in what we eat, or the people we hang out with. Try choosing one scripture from the doctrine and living with it for a few months. I recommend it. Starting at the root to reach the branches for me is reading sacred text. I realize this has been a lifelong practice, first from the Holy Bible, and then so many, many other writings from all over the world. The forms have changed over the years, but the spirit I experience is the same. How can this be? I recognize it's my own spirit. I feel such resonance, as though the words bring me to my core, my true nature. And this happened to me when I first sat in the temple. It was years ago when Michael Macklin was speaking the words. We all then spoke together. I take refuge in the absolute purity of my eternal nature. In that moment, these words brought me to my earliest conscious felt self. When, as a young child, I gave my life to God in the form of Jesus. And in that very tender and precious self, I knew I was goodness and light. And it wasn't a belief. It was a very real, felt sense of knowing the truth of who I am. And I was having a very visceral reminder. This felt presence and selfless awareness arises every time I sit long enough in silence and stillness. My confidence is here in my practice. And I find that as I am faithful to my practice is faithful to me. So to close, I'd like to read the verse again and just invite us all to sit and see where we feel this in our body. The founding master said, "My method of edification, to give you a simile, could either start from the branches and leaves of a tree to reach the roots, or start from the roots to reach the branches and leaves. This is because I make the Dharma available according to a person's capacities." Deep bows to us all. Kamsahamnida.